Hey guys, I've always been really interested in muscle car tuning brands such as Nicky, Yanko, and Baldwin Motion among others, and most of these brands started as drag racing teams in the 1960s. So in today's video, I'll be telling you all about some similar factory-sponsored teams and some of the cars they raced with during that time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more, and with that, let's get right into the video. In the 1930s, a group of automotive enthusiasts decided to create high-performance cars and race each other on the dry lake beds in California deserts. This activity would start to become very popular in the 1950s, and around this time, a notable drag racer, Wally Parks, would found the NHRA, or National Hot Rod Association, which became the leading promoter of drag racing, as well as establishing new safety and performance standards to keep drag racers safe. Fast forward to the late 50s and early 60s, and several drag racing teams were beginning to form. Some of these were Tasca Ford, the Ramchargers, the Golden Commandos, and the Mercury Racing Team. These were all factory-backed teams, which mainly consisted of professional racers, engineers, mechanics, and others. And with that, let's get on to the first team we'll be going over in this video, which is the Ramchargers. The Ramchargers racing team started out as a small group of engineers who worked for Chrysler in the 1950s, who all showed interest in the then new sport of drag racing. Their first team car was a heavily modified 1949 Plymouth Business Coupe, which they named the High and Mighty. This car would feature a modified 354 cubic inch Hemi V8 engine that had a homemade tunnel ram intake, which was actually the first of its kind. Once they were done with this car, they started taking it to events and immediately broke records, bringing attention to and creating fans of their racing team. In 1961, the Ramchargers had gained the attention of Dodge and started using some of their cars for drag racing, a move which proved very successful for them as they went on to win many more races to come. Over time, they would go on to break many drag racing records, like how in 1965, their FX car was the first to break the 9-second mark on gasoline. As time went on, Ramchargers began to move away from drag racing and started selling car parts. After a while though, sales would dwindle and they would eventually close down all online stores for the time being. Over a decade and a half later, the brand would make a resurgence, and it still remains a popular drag racing brand that still competes to this day. The next team we'll be talking about is Tasca Ford. This team started back in 1953 when Bob Tasca Sr. opened his original Tasca Ford dealership, which was located in Bristol, Rhode Island. His dealership would become very successful and sell many cars. It was even the second largest Ford dealership in the entire world at one point. As drag racing became more popular, Tasca would start his own racing team, Tasca Ford. Bob Tasca would work closely with legends like Carroll Shelby to modify various Ford cars over the years for drag racing. To this day, the Tasca racing program is still around, in the form of the Mustang Funny car driven by Bob Tasca III, and the Ford Cobra Jet race car driven by Carl Tasca Sr. While I wasn't able to find information about the original Tasca Ford dealership, many others are still open to this day. Interestingly, Tasca Ford was actually responsible for the creation of many iconic muscle and drag racing cars, such as the Tasca Street Boss, Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt, and Ford Mustang Cobra Jet. There's not much information on this racing team, however it is for sure a notable one. The Golden Commandos was a racing club that originated in 1962 and was created by a small group of engineers, technicians, and mechanics from the Chrysler Corporation Central Engineering Department in Highland Park, Michigan. The first car they would use was a 1963 Plymouth Super Stock Automatic. They began their time racing with a bang, setting low times on the strip off the bat. This team was sponsored by Hamilton Motors, which was a Chrysler and Plymouth dealership in Detroit, Michigan. The Commandos would continue with their winning streak, and they would eventually finish as a runner-up in the 1963 Winter Nationals in California. Interestingly enough, the funny car as a whole was actually created by this racing team. In 1965, the Commandos would start to create and use longer wheelbase cars, which would become known as funny-looking Mopars, or as we know them now, funny cars. Another notable thing the Commandos would achieve was in 1965 when they became the first team to use cars that had fuel-injected Hemi engines. As I said before, the Commandos performed incredibly on the drag strip, and throughout that year, they won every race they participated in. Things were going very well for the Golden Commandos until around 1967, when the dwindling support for racing teams caused them to shut down operations. Overall, a very notable racing team, and one that formed an entire style of racing car. And those are 3 factory-sponsored racing teams from the 1960s. First off, I just wanted to apologize for my long hiatus from uploading, and say thank you to those who stayed with me through that. I really appreciate it. I know this video isn't much, but I wanted to have something out because I felt so bad about the wait. So yeah, I'm back now though, and while I can't promise weekly uploads anymore due to how busy I've been this year, I'll try my best to stick to that schedule. I have a lot of great videos planned for the future, so stay tuned for those. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. With all that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.